Today's episode is brought to you by Boho Knits, unique designs for obsessive knitters. Take 10 hats, whimsical wet felted hats, handcrafted in Prince Edward County, and the Sock Diva, luxurious hand-cranked socks made from sumptuous opal yarn.
Bound with string inside a bottle of green. And if it cracks ends to the bottom, it sinks. Well, then maybe it wasn't meant for me.
Hello, and welcome back for episode 3 of Little Church, the podcast. How are you? I hope you're well since last week. It's certainly been wonderful around here. Our weather has changed. Like, we've totally turned the corner from spring into summer, and it's been hot and humid and sunny and my kind of weather. Absolutely fantastic. I don't know if you can see my arms, but I have a little bit of a reddish tan with lines that go like this from knitting in the gazebo. It's a knitter's tab. Who knew? So that's the best thing that's happened to me all week has been the change in the weather. Perfect. Lovely. I love it. And with the special weather has come the task that, if you know me, you know that I'm not a gardener. I do not have a green thumb. And frankly, I was out digging in the big dirt in the back on the weekend thinking, I detest this. This is drudgery. How can anyone prefer this to knitting? I don't know. I don't mind the pot gardening thing, but the gardening in the big ground, it's just not for me. And you know what? I appreciate it. I can stand back and look at other people's gardens and go, wow, that's incredible. Not coming from me. No, it's not. So I think that you'll really appreciate the fact that I have put in some lovely pots. You've got a few little pictures of that in the opening slideshow, and I'm rather proud of them. Yes, I am. And I will continue to keep you updated via Instagram and Facebook as to their growth and development. I say growth provisionally, hoping that it will in fact happen. I don't see why not. So those are two cool things. Oh, the newsletter's coming out this week. Really kind of excited about the newsletter because I have so many new subscribers. Free Pattern Friday has given birth to this whole new crop of people that really want to know what's going on out here at the church in the middle of nowhere. Yes, I'm very excited about the newsletter. And the thing that I've decided to do with the newsletter is to include some pattern and product discounts in the newsletter that you won't get otherwise. So look for the newsletter coming this week with all kinds of great discounts tucked therein. Yay. Who doesn't love a bargain, right? So there's that. And Audible. Oh my gosh, Audible. Does anybody subscribe to audible.com? I'm addicted. Elizabeth got me started. I'm blaming it totally on her. It started when I was complaining about being sleepless all the time. She's like, oh, I just get up and plug in my Audible. I'm like, what? What's this? What is this Audible you speak of? She's like, oh, yeah. It's all kinds of audiobooks, from classics to new releases to, all your favorite romances, everything. She's like, yeah, it's fantastic. So I looked it up. I looked into it, and I went. It's actually a subsidiary of Amazon. And if you watch PBS at all, you watch any of those great British dramas, you see they have advertisements for Audible in between PBS features. So I went on Audible. I got signed up. I have to say, it's a little bit expensive. I think it was like $14 or $15 US a month. Well, for us, that's 30 practically, right? So I tried it out, and I really liked it, and I thought, I really can't afford $30 a month. I can't justify it. So I went to cancel it. And they said, well, why are you canceling? And I said, well, it's just a little too expensive with the exchange and everything. I can't really justify the cost. That could be yarn I could be buying, right? So the Audible came back and said, well, what if it was $7.99 a month? And I'm like, why didn't you tell me? Of course I'll take it for $7.95 a month. So they knocked it back to $7.95 a month for a couple of months. And then, of course, it went right back up to $15. And talk about a great marketing plan, because it worked. I was hooked, and I will never again complain about spending $15 US a month on Audible, because I am addicted to it. I'm cruising through book after book. It's my favorite thing in the world to do, is to sit out in the gazebo, listen to the sound of the wind. And sometimes I put my headphones in, like if there's a lot of traffic or somebody's mowing their lawn, I'll stick my earbuds in. But most of the time I don't. I just let my device play my book. Oh, it's divine. I sit out there in the sun. I listen to the birds singing. I get so much knitting done because I have this lovely story going on. And I have some favorite, because I've never been a fiction reader. I've always read nonfiction. So this is my first kind of foray into modern fiction. And it's really kind of cool. I can't believe I didn't just discover it before. So I'm right into, of course, the British writers. And I've discovered Helen Simonson. She's only written 2 books. And what an inspiring story. She always wanted to write a book, a work of fiction, from what I can gather. Didn't write her first one until she was 42 or something. And it is fantastic. I was reading it. Finally, I'm like, this can't be a young person. This has got to be a really wise person who's had some life experience. I looked at her website. It's like, yeah, she's young, she's cute, she's like in her 40s. And she has this incredible perspective and this beautiful command of the language. So she wrote 2 books. The first one is called Major Pettigrew's Last Stand, which I just finished. I couldn't stop. Carl is like trying to discuss important, interesting things with me. And I'm like, how to say what? And I just couldn't put it down. It was so fantastic. And then the second one is called The Summer Before the War, which is a really poignant story about a young woman coming of age in the summer leading up to the beginning of the World War I. Fantastic. Loved it to death. Unfortunately, she's only written 2. So Helen Simonson, if you're listening, more please. More. So that's what's new. The other thing, and the biggest thing that's new that I think is a really cool idea, as you know, Free Pattern Friday has been running for about, I think this will be its 14th or 15th week coming up. I'm telling you, I have enjoyed it so much, every minute of it. It's been really, really hard to get the samples knitted in time to release the patterns. And I've had some help, and I'm ever so grateful for. And I love doing it, and I wouldn't dream of stopping now. I've met so many cool people. My Ravelry friend list has tripled. And I'm meeting all of these cool people who are really, really great, nice people and fun people and talented people. And it's just opened up a whole lot of dialogue that I've really enjoyed. So Free Pattern Friday is going to continue. One thing I've heard a bit of, though, is people, because it isn't a Ravelry download, it is a printable pattern. For me to format a pattern into a downloadable PDF format would take longer, and so it's not something I can, by the time I write the pattern, knit the sample, put the pattern on my blog, that's already a big time commitment. So to make it into a PDF is a little more than my time budget will handle. But people are saying, well, gosh, we sure wish we could put this in our Ravelry libraries. And I thought, it's true. You should be able to put it in your Ravelry library. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to keep the Free Pattern Friday free on the blog. You go to the blog, you press the print button, the free pattern prints. That's not going to change. What I am going to do, though, is I'm going to add, at a minimal cost of $2, I'm going to add a Ravelry download where you actually can download it, keep it in your Ravelry library, and it can live in your Ravelry library forever. So that's an option. For those who, A, don't maybe want to print things, B, are having a hard time printing, it's just something that, has been brought to my attention a couple of times where people are like, we really, really would like to be able to download it. So they are going to be downloadable starting this week for a minimal cost. But there's another level that I thought of that people might really enjoy. I'm going to allow a membership level or a subscription level. Oh, there goes the garbage truck. Yay! I'm going to add a subscription level to Free Pattern Friday. You will get the free pattern formatted in my usual paid-for pattern format. Big glossy pictures, yum, yum, yum. Delivered into your inbox every Thursday night for $10 a month. So you get the pattern, you get it delivered to you. You don't have to go looking for it. It's just going to land in your inbox every Thursday evening. So you get it a little earlier than other people get it. Every Thursday evening for a monthly cost of $10, or you can sign up a week at a time. As long as you sign up by Monday, you can sign up a week at a time for $3 a crack to have it emailed right into your inbox. So, to recap, Free Pattern Friday, still free, still fun, all that. You can still go to the blog and print your free pattern every Friday. But there are 2 more levels, subscription levels available now. The first one is the PDF, where you can get the downloadable PDF that can live in your Ravelry library forever and ever, amen. $2. You want it delivered on Thursday evening in your inbox, $10 a month. Pretty good, eh? Or you could do it one time at a time for $3 a crack for the delivered to your inbox, full on, paid for format, $10 a month or $3 a crack. So isn't that cool? I thought that was pretty cool. It solved a bunch of problems for people. So I'm kind of excited about getting that going this Friday. So Free Pattern Friday, whole new world. It's a whole new world. Little sip. Yes. Let's see, what else? Works in progress. Yes, well, I've had some, there's good news and there's bad news. What do you want first? The good news? The good news. The picnic socks. I love them. I love them so much. Every time I look at this yarn in this configuration, it makes me smile. I'm going to be doing the yarn review for this yarn this Thursday on the blog. I'll do a little review of this yarn so you get the full picture. You've probably used it before. It's Patton's Croy. But it now comes in a bunch of really cool, zany kind of colorways. And this one is called Meadow Stripes. I know I've showed you this before, but I can't get over how much I love it. I love it so very much. It makes me smile. So, watch for the review on Thursday on the blog. In the meantime, I want to talk about the picnic socks. I have talked about them. I think I talked about them in the Hideous episode 1 of the podcast. And I think I just went, oh, look, socks, and then put them away. But these really are a bit of a pet project for me. And so I pulled them out since last you saw them. Yes, we rip out and reknit so you don't have to. I pulled them out, reorganized the pattern a little bit. I found that the other pattern I was working was disturbing the stripe pattern too much. I just felt it really, the beauty of this is sort of the, to quote the Dowager Countess, the on and onness of it, and the way that it really does echo all the yummy things about a picnic. You've got the grass, you have the sky or the water, you have strawberries and cream, or popsicle, whatever it is you love eating. So I thought, I really want to focus on letting the yarn be the yarn, letting the colorway be the colorway. And so I pulled the other one out and reorganized it. And it has been really hard because I chose a drop stitch pattern, just with one drop stitch. And I think it's really showy and pretty when you have it on. It doesn't really show to advantage here, but you'll see when they're done. And I thought, I really want to have a little picot cast on and a little bit of ribbing. And so I've worked really hard on it, and I think they're going to be adorable. So keep tuned in to see what happens with the picnic socks. I think I went into a little bit of detail last episode about the Fairhaven picnic blanket and the colors that I pulled from the napkin. And I looked at these two the other day on the weekend when I was working on them. They match the picnic blanket. It was meant to be. So watch for them coming out on the long weekend, I hope. So yeah, picnic socks. Very exciting. Very exciting. So they sit in their little bowl and look at me when I'm getting all of my chores out of the way and say, okay, could you just hurry up and knit on me for a little while? Just hurry up and knit on me. I haven't been able to put them down. They're so much fun. So cute. So that's the first thing. That's the good news. I have some sad news and some in-between news. As you know, I was really excited about casting on for my Orinoco tank. And I had a great idea for this, and I made a lovely swatch and blocked it and really love it. And I really love the yarn. And I got going. I cast on. I got going. Love it. Loving every minute of it. And then I thought, this looks big. And I thought, is it just because the edge is garter stitch, and I can sometimes tend to make things a little bit larger than they ought to be? So I did a little test. I took the gauge in about half a dozen different places and found that instead of the 6 to the inch that I was hoping to get, I'm only getting 5.5. When good swatches go bad. Yeah. So it's going to have to come out, sadly. The good news is I'll be knitting on quite a few less stitches around and around and around. And it may help me when I go to configure the Orinoco pattern up over the narrow tank straps. I just really want to make sure that I get a full motif in there. And I think that a little bit fewer stitches in the overall body might help me achieve that. So it's not all bad, I guess. But yeah, it's gonna have to come out. So I reckon I'll get to that this week as soon as I can stop knitting on my socks. So yeah, that's kind of the sad news about Orinoco, but that's all right. Not the end of the world. It won't be the first time we've had to pull out and start over. So yeah, a little bit sad. Oh well, onward and upward. If we looked at our productivity as knitters by the stitch, we'd never do it. We would never do it. It's like, I don't know, it's like cooking by the pound or laundry by the pound. We just don't look at it that way, and it's for the best. So we'll get back to that. I'm really still very, very excited about it. And I can't wait to cast it on and have it be just right. I think that's going to be some really great beach knitting, gazebo knitting this summer that I can just sit there and knit around and around and around on. Kind of excited about that. And then the sort of in-between news, work in progress, is the Tahiti shawl. I'm enjoying this, kind of. I mean, I I have a lot planned for this, for the edging and so on. I love the fabric. I hope I've done the right thing. I mean, it's very open, and I love that about it. And I think it's just something I'm just going to have to keep working on in order to... You know how it is, sometimes you start on a project, you have all the best intentions in the world, and it just takes a minute of knitting before you begin to love it. Yeah, that's it. I have planned for this. I know it's funny, as a kind of juxtaposition with the sort of sporty stripes, I'm going to do a very deep lace edge on this. A very deep lace edge, possibly with beads. Stay tuned. I'll keep you posted. So that's what's on my needles at the moment, or at least that's those are the three most salient pieces that are on my needles at the moment. As you know, I am still working on and loving every minute of working on my picnic blanket. Love that project. And I just ordered some peony colored cotton to do a little bit of pink. I just think it needs a little splash of pink in there. So I'm going to do that as soon as that comes. And I'm really, really excited about that. So that's what's going on my needles. Now, something has come up a few times this week, and I thought, I should talk about this on the podcast. It pertains to charts. I've had a couple of emails this week about the Marcel chart and how people are confused about why the chart as written, repeated over and over, doesn't fit on their 375 stitches. And so I thought I'd talk a little bit about how to work with charts. And because there are things that people don't know. I mean, they're pretty self-explanatory. They're very icon-based and icon-driven, which I really like. And there are a lot of benefits to working with a chart over written instructions. I find them a lot easier to follow, a lot easier to keep track of where I am. And I visually have a set of checks and balances to help me figure out, to help me keep on track and make sure that I'm in the exact spot that I ought to be in. So it's not very often that I get more than one repeat along erroneously. If I've made an error, I can't get much more than one repeat before I recognize it. I can say, uh-oh, something's wrong. I'm not knitting into a yarn over on this stitch as I usually am, and therefore I've probably done something incorrectly. So I want to talk a little bit about that. First of all, here's the Marcel chart. This is the chart that people are, for some reason, a couple of people have had difficulty understanding. You'll see it in total, it encompasses 33 stitches. People seem to think, or some people seem to think, that that is the number of stitches you're going to repeat in order to make the pattern. Not true. Not true. The part you repeat, and the repeatable number, is not 33. It's 16. And if you look carefully at the Marcel instructions, you'll see that above the chart, right here, there's a little note that says, asterisk, asterisk, note. Red border indicates repeat section. So within this red border, that's the part of the pattern you're going to repeat. So, just an overview about how to read a chart. This is going to be a little tricky because what I'm seeing in the camera is mirror to what is actually in my hand. So bear with me if I make a mistake. So what we have here is a chart. Now what a chart is a snapshot of the face of the fabric. This is exactly what we want the face of the fabric to look like in iconography, if you will. So your key will tell you what each one of those little icons means and how that indicates what the face of the fabric should look like. Not all symbols or icons are created equal, however. Different charting software, different protocol, have different ways of expressing different stitches. The good ones, in my mind, make a symbol that looks like the stitch, and as close as possible to looking like the stitch, so that we get as close as possible a snapshot of what the face of the fabric ought to look like. 9 times out of 10, a knit stitch is going to be an open square, and that's the way my charting software, I use InTwine Studio, that's the way my charting software represents a knit stitch. It's just an open square. A purl stitch in my software is a bar in the box like that, which if you think about a purl stitch on the back of your fabric or on the face of your fabric, has that purl bump or that strand that runs horizontally across the work. That's what is meant by that symbol there. So when you're working in the round, it's pretty easy, right? You really are just working square for square, symbol for symbol, exactly what is indicated on the chart. When you start to work back and forth, however, as we do when we work lace shawls 9 times out of 10, you have to mentally calculate what the back end of that stitch is. For example, if you're knitting across, knitting across, knitting across, if you knit on the back side of your work, you're not going to get a knit stitch on the front. You're going to get a purl stitch. So in order to achieve a knit stitch on the front of the work, if you're working on the back, you have to make the opposite stitch, which is a purl. So you're going to knit across and purl back. Most of the time, the key that goes along with the chart will tell you what those stitches are when they're knitted from the wrong side. So you don't have to guess. It will actually indicate to you what stitch you should be doing in order to achieve what is listed for the face of the fabric. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, when we work from a chart, we work this way, just like you knit. You work exactly as you knit, and this way. So you're going to start right here and work your way across, and then every row is knitted on top of that. This is great because once you get up here, you know that when you come to knit to work that stitch right there, you're going to be knitting into a yarn over. It's pretty easy to spot. It's just a simple loop over your needle. So it's easy to see when you go astray. You can also, depending on the number of repeats you have, you can also set markers in your fabric for every time this pattern repeats. So it helps to keep you honest. It helps to keep you on track. You place markers, maybe if it's a short repeat, like this one is, only 16 stitches. If you have 375 stitches on your needle, as we do with Marcel, it's not very practical to put a marker every 16 stitches, but you could do it every 5 pattern repeats. That's not infeasible. And it just helps to keep you on track. So that's a good way to do it. When you see, and I mentioned this, but I'm going to say it again, when you see a section that has a box like that around it, that is almost always going to be the section that you repeat. This is the lead up to it. This is the repeat you do over and over and over and over again across the row, and that's how you end. It's, once you start thinking about it this way, it's pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty intuitive, I should say. Now, as I work along, when I'm working on a chart, especially when it's complicated, I'm probably going to take a sticky note or something like that, and I'm going to stick the sticky note on top of the chart like this, so I can remember and keep track. If the wind is blowing, I can keep track of what row I'm doing, and I just move the sticky note up like that. So it hides the stitches I haven't knit yet and lets me know what I should be knitting into, what I have already knitted. So that's a little short view about how to work from charts. I find them, and I know a lot of people do, a lot easier than working from written instructions. You don't have to look away from your instructions and then be totally lost. It is really easy to see what kind of stitch you should be working into, but it does require that you learn to read your knitting a little bit, which is always a good idea anyway. Even if you're just doing a knit one, purl one, rib, it pays to be able to read your knitting. So anyway, that's a little bit about charts. I'm open to questions. If anybody has any, happy to answer them. So recap real quick. It's a snapshot of the face of the fabric. This is the way we go at it, from this away and from the bottom up. And, oh, here's one thing I didn't mention. If you look at the numbers, when you're working in the round with a chart, all of the numbers are going to be on the one side. When you're working back and front, you'll back and forth, flat, you'll find the wrong side numbers are on this side. That's something that can help to keep you organized as well. So yes, snapshot of the face of the fabric. Repeatable section is right here. And we read it this way and this way. The key will most often tell you what that stitch should be when it's worked on the wrong side. So that's not a mystery either. And it's just a real easy way to keep track of where you are. It also gives you an option to put in markers every few repeats. One other thing you can do to keep yourself organized when you're knitting from a chart, or you're knitting lace, or you're knitting anything that you're not completely sure of, you can always lay in a lifeline. You just take a piece of waste yarn that is, ideally it would be a little bit lighter and maybe a little silkier than the yarn you're using for your project. You're just going to run it all the way along the stitches on your needle. You're not going to take the stitches off the needle or anything like that. You're just going to run the waste yarn through each stitch and continue knitting. That way, if you have to pull back, if you find that you've made an error, or you don't like the result, or whatever, you can pull your needle out, pull your knitting out, and those stitches aren't going to go any farther than that lifeline. So that's a really handy thing. I use it a lot when I'm trying new heel techniques on socks, for example. And I've knit the cuff, or I've knit the whole foot of the sock, and I don't want to lose my work. So I might lay a lifeline in there. It's just a handy thing to be able to do. I know a lot of people who use interchangeable needles also. You'll notice they have like a little hole in the sort of base of the shaft of the needle where you tighten the needle tip onto the cable. I'm told, though I haven't tried it, that you can run like a dental floss or fine yarn in that hole, and the lifeline will pull along as you work. So you don't actually have to take a tapestry needle and weave it through the stitches. Great idea. It's a time saver, especially when you're doing those great big wide lace shawls. So yeah, there we go. Little heads up on chart knitting. But of course, if you have a question, drop me a line. I'm always happy to hear from folks. So, what is coming up? I think I talked about what's coming up. Newsletters coming up. Oh, it's not too late to register for Toes Up, 2 at a Time Toe Up Socks, hosted by Knit Traders in Kingston. That takes place on June 11th. That's a Saturday. It's going to be a really fun class. So if you want to take the class, it's not too late to register. And I'm hoping you're going to like the changes that we're making with Free Pattern Friday, but I hope you'll still keep tuned in, because they are still free, still printable every week. And yeah, I guess that's it for this week. I hope you have a lovely rest of the week and a happy weekend. And